Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. There's anarchy and unrest in India's backyard. After weeks of deadly clashes, today Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina resigned and escaped to India. Within hours, their army declared that it has taken over the reins of Bangladesh. The 15-year regime of Hasina came to a brutal end, with protesters storming the Prime Minister's palace and carrying out a victory march on the streets of Dhaka. Amidst violent clashes, the statue and murals of Bangladesh's founder Mujibur Rahman were destroyed and the Awami League's offices were set ablaze. This viral video allegedly shows Sheikh Hasina fleeing in a chopper and being whisked away in a black SUV. Hours later, she landed at India's Hindon Air Base, just a few kilometers from where we are in our Noida studios, protected by Indian Army. Top sources reveal that she has been taken to an undisclosed secure location after NSA Ajit Doval met Hasina. He briefed Prime Minister Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah and Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh on the latest developments, a meeting that was held a few minutes ago. But let's explain why India is wary of the unrest in Bangladesh. Hasina's presence in India may complicate relations with the new dispensation. After all, Bangladesh's opposition is not as favorably disposed towards India as Hasina was. The new dispensation's stand on Hindu minorities may also have a bearing on our ties. But in the larger strategic picture, India, the world's largest democracy, is now surrounded by nations with unstable and volatile regimes like Pakistan, Afghanistan, and now Bangladesh added to the list. With an army coup in Bangladesh, Pakistan and China seem to be waiting in the wings, say experts. After all, speculation is rife of Pakistan's ISI fueling the protests themselves in Bangladesh and favoring extremist outfits like Jamaat-e-Islami, which was banned by Sheikh Hasina. In fact, Pakistan's PMLQ's youth president tweeted that after Hasina's ouster, there will be no obstacles to friendship between Pakistan and Bangladesh. The Bangladesh Army Chief Waqar-uz-Zaman announced the military takeover till it decides on an interim government, and that press conference being held just minutes after Hasina leaving Bangladesh was a news that was confirmed. Remember, India and Bangladesh have enjoyed historic and strategic ties. Sheikh Hasina's government had backed India after our surgical strikes on Pakistan and has cooperated closely on border security. Not only were 5 rail links between the two nations restored, but as per the 2023 agreement, 2 Bangladeshi ports were also allowed to be used by India. Now, with the army in charge of Bangladesh, the Indian government will have to wait and watch. So, ladies and gentlemen, the legitimate question that we're asking on the Newshour tonight: how will Bangladesh unrest impact India? That's the question, and that's the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the Newshour at 9, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Joining me tonight is former Foreign Secretary, also Ambassador to US, Bangladesh and Thailand, and Chief Coordinator of India at the G20 Presidency, Mr. Harsh Singla. Thank you very much for joining me, Mr. Singla. Clearly, trouble that was just not required by India, but trouble in our backyard it is. You have spent a lot of time in Bangladesh. How do you read the situation that has unfolded in our neighboring country?
Well, clearly troubling, but we were seeing the signs of this earlier, and then more recently, I think more pronounced signs of unrest that could, have had it gone further, sort of resulted in more bloodshed, more violence, and I think would have taken the country to the edge of a precipice from which it may have been difficult to return. So what I'm trying to say is that, this is the best of a very, very difficult situation where, to avoid further unrest and instability, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina left the country. You've had the military takeover. You've have some talk about an interim administration which will be composed of different parties and groups that are involved in the country. I think the situation can still be retrieved. We should make the best of this difficult situation, engage the new administration, engage the military and the Chief of Army Staff. And I think we should make our concerns very, very clearly known to their side. And I think some of these are very clear that there should be a restoration of peace and tranquility in Bangladesh, restoration of law and order. There should be no targeting of their own citizens, especially vulnerable sections of the population. And there should be no administration that should be inimical to India's interests. I think that we should absolutely make clear. There are certain red lines here that should not be crossed. I do understand that there will be a all-party administration, including the banned Jamaat-e-Islami. That's a matter of concern for us, because the Jamaatis who had supported Pakistan in 1975, who are a radical Islamist outfit, if they are back in the corridors of power, taking decisions for that country, it spells bad news for us. So I think we have to, again, engage the administration, trying to ensure that this sort of a situation doesn't emerge. And if you see some of the rioting on the streets, some of the violence perpetrated, including what continues now, it is Jamaat and its youth wing, which is the Chhatru Shibir, which is engaged in this. And, they're pro-Pakistan groups. And I mean, Pakistan exulting at the outcome also is something that is telling, because their own Jamaat faction is back in the running, so to speak. So these are matters of concern.
There couldn't be worse news, as you say, Harsh Singla ji, but the fact is Sheikh Hasina government had abolished the quota system on which there were protests, and then the Supreme Court also revised its own verdict. Despite that, the manner in which this has escalated, do you think, you said you named Pakistan the way it is exulting. Are we seeing a situation where this issue or the protest really went out of control because there were other agencies, stroke countries involved?
Yes, I think you're entirely right in saying that what started off as a movement, led by the students against the quota system, and a very valid sort of argument that went against, reservation of quotas 53 years after their independence, actually was at some stage hijacked by elements that were anti-national and anti-social. Now, and you correctly pointed out that this is, the students' demands were met almost entirely. I mean, there was absolutely nothing left that was on their agenda. Yet the protests continued and were hijacked by this group of basically the opposition BNP and the Jamaat-e-Islami, which, as I said, is the radical outfit, pro-Pak outfit. And they're the ones who perpetrated the violence. They're the ones who have taken this into a situation, a point of no return. And I think they're the ones we should be looking out for, because this is really, in a certain sense, democracy being hijacked by, mobocracy of sorts. You've seen them in parliament. You've seen them burning down places of historical and national importance. I think there has to be, the military has to control the situation first and foremost, and to ensure that that this does not become a witch hunt, and this does not result in attacks against vulnerable sections of the community in Bangladesh.
So, Mr. Harsh Singla, if you say that BNP, the Jamaat-e-Islami are on one side, Sheikh Hasina was always a friend of India, do you think it's going to be challenging times for us to have any great understanding with the any interim government which has these two elements, Jamaat-e-Islami as well as the BNP, and then Pakistan exulting, China won't be far behind? What does this mean for India?
Yeah, no, I think, as I said, it's a difficult situation. It could have been worse if that impasse had continued and there was more violence and more, I would say, bloodshed. But in a certain sense, it is somewhat controlled now. Now the situation is to engage those who are taking decisions and to make it clear to them that, in order for a viable relationship, which is, I think, very important both for Bangladesh and India. I mean, if you look at it from Bangladesh's perspective, I think cooperation of India is critical. So we need to engage them informally. I'm not saying formally, and I'm sure there are channels of communication open with all concerned, and to convey to them our serious concerns and our suggestions as to how they should proceed further on this, and how it could sort of lead to a situation where they could restore the democratic process and bring back. And as I think our External Affairs Minister has said, we are looking at all options very actively. So clearly, the meeting that Prime Minister has taken has looked at some of these issues, and clearly there are options for us that would enable us to retrieve, what is.
But I was also reading, you said a lot of support is coming in from exiles abroad. Who are you referring to? And, for India, all options are being explored, but what are these options?
I think as of now, we need to remain engaged with all of our friends in Bangladesh. We need to keep our channels of communication open, especially with the armed forces and the military that has assumed that power. Even if they appoint an interim administration, it will be overseen by the military. So it is something that we need to get into that process and try and engage them on this. I mean, these decisions haven't been taken fully, and we need to be able to input on them. By exiles, I'm talking about those Bangladeshi nationals who are outside the country, but who form very, very, I would say, serious lobbying groups with the Western powers. Mainly, Jamaat-e-Islami is a very strong lobbying power in some of these countries, and they lobby those governments to take stands and positions against their own government in Bangladesh. So these are groups that have been very active in the social media, active in that political space, and trying to create a narrative that we cannot fully share. Well,
clearly, Mr. Harsh Shringla, the picture that you are pointing to, we understand the story between the lines, but clearly bad news for India for the moment. But thank you very much for explaining the situation and the bind that India will be in over the next few weeks. Our work cut out for us, but thank you very much for joining me on the News Hour tonight. Thank you, Mr. Shringla. Back home, politics has sparked off, with the opposition taking veiled digs at Prime Minister Modi. Kejriwal and Akhilesh's parties have both said that all dictatorships will come to an end. Meanwhile, Mehbooba Mufti's daughter's post shows 2022 Sri Lanka crisis with protesters swimming in the president's pool. She asks, does Lok Kalyan Marg have swimming pool as well? Listen in to other opposition voices, and clearly not an innocent tweet out there, but listen in to the opposition voices.
देखिए, ये इस बात का संकेत है कि तानाशाही जो है वो किसी भी देश में अच्छी बात नहीं है। वहाँ भी इसी तरीके से विपक्ष के लोगों को पकड़ पकड़ के जेल में डाला गया। जो चुनाव हुआ था वहाँ आपने देखा ही था कि कैसे चुनाव हुआ था, सारे विपक्ष ने बायकॉट किया था। तो मुझे लगता है ये एक सबक है पूरी दुनिया के लिए कि ऐसे जो शासन है वो ज़्यादा लंबे चलते नहीं।
And joining this debate, Anand Ranganathan, joining me, scientist, author, political analyst. Also joining me tonight is Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst and Congress supporter. And rather unfortunate, Tehseen Poonawala, that the opposition should compare Bangladesh's situation with India and once again take potshots at the Prime Minister and the so-called dictatorship charge. Are you comparing the elections held in Bangladesh with the elections held in India recently? Sanjay Singh's statement, Samajwadi Party's tweet put out. Are we carrying things too far?
Namaskar, Navika ji. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Let me begin with a quote of Mahatma Gandhi. Ji, I've just changed one word in that. Remember that all through history there have been dictators and tyrants. And for a time they seem invincible. But in the end, they always fall. Always. Mahatma Gandhi. Bangladesh is a basket case of what went wrong in a democracy. The Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, a friend of India, make no mistake about it, and Prime Minister Modi and India should have stood by her much earlier. But a friend of India, she dreamt of an opposition-mukt Bangladesh. Opposition leaders were thrown in jail. False charges were put upon them. They were called corrupt. Students who came out to protest and protesters who came out to protest were called anti-nationals. They were called terrorists. I am not comparing this to my great nation. I am just saying that there is always fall when there is ego. When you start that nobody is better than me, ab ki baar sirf main hi paar. There will always be a fall. Therefore, I am appealing that India is a great democracy, and what happened to Bangladesh must not happen anywhere else. And I think that's a fair point that the opposition is making.
Is it a fair point, Anand Ranganathan, or are they pushing their luck too far and making India, and comparing it to Bangladesh unfortunate, even, against national interest?
Navika, this is the dream of all these people. They are actually closet anarchists, and we've seen it. We've seen the sitting Chief Minister of Delhi, in fact, proclaim proudly that he's an anarchist. All these chauthi fail leftists and dynasty doormats are closet anarchists. This is what they want. You look at the justification they are saying. They are basically justifying what is right now happening in Bangladesh, where anarchists are running riot. Islamists, jihadis have entered the parliament, are throwing smoke bombs in there, are creating all sort of ruckus inside the parliament. And for them, this is the birth of democracy. This is what their true picture is. This is their reality. And in India's history, once it has happened that a party rigged elections, and for the next 30, 40 years, it wrecked the entire state. Do I need to tell you which that party was? Do I need to tell you which member of that party openly admitted that, yes, we rigged the elections? Let me tell you, that party was the Congress party. They rigged the 1987 Kashmir elections, and the person who said, yes, we rigged it, was none other than Shashi Tharoor. So in effect, these are the anarchists who have committed these atrocities. But be that as it may, I want to talk about one very serious thing. You see, we can laugh about it, as my good friend Tessin is smirking. But at the end of it, you have millions of lives at stake. They have already destroyed some temples. Times Now is right now showing that an ISKCON temple in Bangladesh has been burned. You have the Awami League members who've been burnt alive. This is the mayhem, and these people are justifying it as the birth of democracy, to throw anarchy, to throw dictatorship. How low will they stoop?
Well, liberalism, woke liberalism, Tehseen Poonawalla, is this how you will describe it? And, as Anand Ranganathan mentions 1987, is this the case of the pot calling the kettle black? And let me also ask you, Sheikh Hasina, was she a dictator? Was she a dictator?
Let me address each of those issues one by one. Let's first begin with the 1987 issue that Anand Ranganathan raised. And of course, he quoted Dr. Tharoor, who, by the way, people who is not in government, but you quoted Dr. Tharoor. Is this the official stand of the government of India, present government, that India has ever rigged elections in Kashmir? That we come on national TV? Nothing can be more anti-national than saying India rigged elections in Kashmir. We may have our internal differences, and I certainly have with Anand. I will never say my government, even Modi ji's rigged elections. But this is anti-national to suit an agenda. We do. No, Anand, don't interrupt me. Point number 2.
He holds a constitutional position as a member of parliament. Position as a member of parliament, my friend.
I am. He is in opposition. Is this the position of the government of India? Is the question. Number 2. Temples are being destroyed in Bangladesh. There is anarchy in Bangladesh. What was Ajit Doval doing for all this while? What was the Rod desk doing? Once again, we've been caught napping. Yes, today he met Sheikh Hasina. Yes, he's briefing the Honorable Prime Minister. Prime Minister is having a cabinet meeting. Yes, I agree to all of that. What was happening so far? Has Sheikh Hasina been a friend of India? No, you may agree or disagree with her politics. She's been a friend of India. What was the Indian Rod desk doing? Indian Rod
was she a dictator? You haven't answered. Was she a dictator? Was she good for India? Or should India take the same path as Bangladesh?
You don't interrupt, Anand. Please allow me to speak. I'm going to make my points. You interrupt my flow. Please allow me to make my point. I've got to make the third point.
I don't have time for a victim card here. If you want to make a point, answer the question that I've asked.
The third point that
Navika, can I please come in?
Look, there's a delay. I'm making my points. You must allow me to finish. If you break my flow, I can't make my point. So please allow me. Kindly give me the courtesy. The third point, now because the second point's gone wasted, let me make the third point. Sheikh Hasina had a golden opportunity to take Bangladesh forward on progressive liberal values. She definitely worked for the economy. She spoke about a prosperous Bangladesh. Unfortunately, over a period of time, not only did she turn insecure, she turned increasingly authoritarian, brandishing all opposition as anti-national, everything going wrong in her country as a foreign conspiracy, even to the extent wanting our opposition-mukt Bangladesh. What happened was bound to happen.
Unfortunate that you would draw similarities, but short response, Anand Ranganathan, 30 seconds.
I'm not. Why are you finding them?
Now, Navika, it is amusing that when I quote a congressman and erudite Tehseen's great friend and mentor, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, he calls me anti-national for quoting him, which is preposterous. Number two, can my good friend Tehseen deny, because let's stick to the topic, can he deny that in 2015, it was the Congress party that demanded that Bangladeshi minorities be given Indian citizenship? What does that mean? That means that minorities in Bangladesh cannot be Muslims, right? That Hindus, Christians, Sikhs, or Buddhists of Bangladesh be brought to India and given citizenship. I ask him, does the Congress have the same stand now? If you have the guts, Tehseen, please answer. It's very important.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yeah.
The policy of citizenship is to be decided by the current government, which has zero policy. It's as clueless as a deer in front on a highway in front of a headlights.
And your policy,
and I hope the Prime Minister
is to oppose everything and answer nothing, and that is the woke liberalism that you subscribe to. Well, just hold that thought. There are 12% minorities in Bangladesh, 12% Hindus and some other minorities. Today, they are at risk. Think about it. And think about the CAA that you opposed for so long, just because you opposed Modi. And today, to compare Bangladesh and Modi together, well, nothing can be more unfortunate than that, than the woke liberalism on bursting out on social media and in the opposition benches in our own country. Well, we leave it at that. Situation's definitely not good for India. Thank you very much, Tehseen and Anand Ranganathan, for joining me.